On our programs on the back, we have America the Beautiful. When we conclude the ceremony, the cadets will come up and join us, and I'm going to lead us in the singing of this song. We are going to sing the first and the fourth verses, not the entirety of the song, as my singing ability is lacking, and I fear what will happen should we try and sing 4 verses. So after that point, our bagpiper will lead us up to Blue Hall, and we will have the continuation of our ceremonies. So if you could just please maintain silence any sort of cell phones that you may have on you at this time. The ceremony will begin momentarily. Ellen, looking good. All right, thank you. That concludes the ceremony. If you could join us up top, please. All right, so again, the first and the fourth verse. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of rain, for purple mountain majesties, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriotry that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities green, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Together, guys.
And now you can follow the piper to Blue Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, I could have your attention up here. I am Cadet Samuel Chapin, your Master of Ceremonies for today, and a senior here at Tufts University. My partner in crime today is Cadet Hans Hege-Wenger, and together we are going to be running the remainder of today's events. I thank you for joining us for the passing of the flag ceremony outside today. I'm going to provide more detail on the history of the passing of the flag and of Veterans Day. We initially had a plan for inside because with the weather here in New England, you can never really guess what you're going to get. But thankfully, we were blessed with beautiful weather today. I think that's the best weather I've seen in my 4 years here. So we're going to start today with an invocation written by Chaplain Patricia Kepler and read by Tufts Senior Emily Bartlett. So if you could please stand as you are able, Ms. Bartlett.
On behalf of the chaplains here at Tufts University, I offer up this prayer for all those who have served our country and who continue to serve our country. With the light of your ever-present love, Holy One, shine on those who have served our country in the armed services, and be with us today as we honor and remember them. Accept our gratitude for those courageous men and women who have provided security for us through the years, and those who serve even as we gather today. May our veterans be blessed. Stand by them as they have stood by us. May they find peace and prosper in spirit. We come with hearts breaking for those who have lost their lives in war, and for their families and friends who live with their loss. Words fail as we celebrate all they were. Hold them in love and remember all they sacrificed. May they rest in your care. Those of us who have never been on a battlefield or experienced the wounds of war stand humbled before those men and women who have given so much for us, and we ask your protective cover for those still in harm's way. And may we, as a nation, show our appreciation for all they have given by giving back to them. Breathe wisdom and strength upon all who serve to still hatred, to contain violence, resolve bitter conflicts, provide safety for us all. Breathe courage upon all who strive for the justice that empowers our democracy and the compassion that enables us to live together in peace.
Thank you. That was very beautiful. Please take your seats. Greetings again. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our flag recipient today, Mrs. Eleanor Samuels. Mrs. Eleanor Samuels accepted the flag today to honor her late husband, Jay Samuels, class of 45, and the other World War II veterans who first started the group, now known as Advocates for Tufts ROTC. We are honored by her presence today and are grateful for her participation in the passing of the flag ceremony. Without the Advocates for Tufts ROTC, none of this would be possible. They did virtually all of the work in organizing this ceremony, and Hans and I are happy to be figureheads before you today. So let me spend the next few moments detailing the history and origination of the passing of the flag ceremony and Veterans Day itself. The passing of the flag represents our country and the ranks achieved through service when the flag is passed from one to the other, each a higher rank, and finally given to the honored receiver. All stand at attention, and each service person gives a slow salute as the flag is passed. This ceremony originated when a U.S. Navy Chief Fire Controlman retired after 20 years of service. He received a folded flag that had been flown over the USS Arizona, which rests as a memorial in Pearl Harbor. Veterans Day. Veterans Day itself began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, when World War I ended. This day became known as Armistice Day. In 1921, an unknown World War I American soldier was buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Similarly, unknown soldiers have been buried in England at Westminster Abbey, and at France at the Arc de Triomphe. All of these memorials took place on November 11th to commemorate the end of the war to end all wars. In 1926, Congress resolved to officially call November 11th Armistice Day. Then in 1938, the day was named a national holiday. Soon afterwards, war broke out in Europe and World War II began. Armistice Day became Veterans Day. Soon after the end of World War II, a veteran of that war named Raymond Weeks organized National Veterans Day with a parade and festivities to honor all veterans. He chose to hold this day on Armistice Day. Thus began an annual observance of a day to honor all veterans, not just the end of World War I. In 1954, Congress officially passed and President Dwight Eisenhower signed a bill proclaiming November 11th as Veterans Day. Now that you know the historical significance of today, if you did not already, it is my pleasure to introduce President Anthony Monaco of Tufts University. President Monaco has shown his regard for the armed services by his attendance here today, and I thank him for joining us here.
Well, I'd like to start by welcoming everyone to this commemoration of Veterans Day, especially of those of you who have come from outside Tufts and alumni who are back here on campus today. It's a real pleasure to participate in this ceremony every year because military service really does reflect values which we cherish here at Tufts. It's one of the most intensely committed forms of active citizenship. It's an opportunity for our graduates to take forward the values we hold here at Tufts into the world in a uniquely meaningful way. Our distinguished ROTC program is one important way we can support this commitment to active citizenship at Tufts. We are very proud of those who enter into the service of their country after they leave the university. And we hold in our thoughts those Tufts men and women who are currently serving. They have chosen a course of dedication, of truly selfless service to their country and to wider society. We are also truly grateful to the alumni here today who have demonstrated their belief in service to country and to Tufts. You have contributed to peace and conflict resolution around the world, and on your return you have contributed to your local communities and to the university. It is an honor to help honor you and all our veterans in this meaningful annual commemoration. Thank you.
It is now my pleasure to introduce Dean James Glazier, who has been one of the strongest supporters for ROTC since my time here. I urge you to give him the warmest of welcomes as he comes up to introduce our guest speaker for today.
Thank you, Sam. As the university's ROTC representative and the Tufts administration's liaison to the Tufts alumni ROTC advocates, it's my great honor to add my welcome to this annual Tufts Veterans Day ceremony. At last year's ceremony, I spoke with Colonel Hall, who invited me to join the Army Cadets on a Patriots' Day march from the Old North Bridge in Concord to the Lexington Green to learn about that famous battle. Ironically, I've traveled to visit the Normandy beaches, and I've been to Hiroshima, which are both incredibly moving sights. But while I've lived here for 20 years and had ridden my bike through Minuteman Park many times, I'd never stopped at the Revolutionary War battlefields. So I marched with the cadets, though they did not make me carry the 50-pound pack. And Colonel Hall educated us on the various sites, which was fantastic. But the highlight was the time that I spent with the ROTC students, whose accomplishments and values and aspirations make us all proud and give us hope for the future. I am a firm believer in ROTC, and not just because I value the opportunities it provides our students, and not just because I believe that it plays an important role for the military, though I believe both of those things. I believe in ROTC because I know it's good for our campus and for advancing our educational mission. My belief in ROTC is also why I do have some worries. There are concerns about ROTC on the horizon. Whether we go off the fiscal cliff or not, there will most certainly be some major budget cuts this year. And there could well be some impact on our ROTC programs. Financial aid for those students who pursue military training will become more scarce, and we've spoken with our colleagues at MIT about what this will mean for some of our programs. The Tufts advocates have begun a conversation about filling in some of those gaps to support those students who would like to prepare to serve in the military. And if you are interested in joining this effort, please let me or one of my colleagues know. It's now my honor to introduce our speaker. Because of illness, our original speaker, Dr. William McDermott, is unable to join us, but we are fortunate that he has a longtime friend who is standing in for him. Dr. Samuel Foreman is a graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, Cornell Medical School, Harvard School of Public Health, and the Yale University School of Management. Those are all excellent schools. But I'd like to note that Dr. Foreman's wife, Ulika, has her doctorate in child development from Tufts. So that adds even more luster to the family. Dr. Foreman was a medical officer in the U.S. Navy for 10 years between 1970 and 1980. He is currently the president of Oak and Ivy Health System, a consulting firm about health management, as well as a member of the faculty of the Harvard School of Public Health. Perhaps most important from our perspective, Dr. Foreman is also an historian and the author of the recent biography, Dr. Joseph Warren, The Boston Tea Party, Bunker Hill, and the Birth of American Liberty. Nathaniel Philbrick, one of my favorite authors, writes that Joseph Warren is a fascinating work of research and historical sleuthing that applies a much-needed medical expertise to the story of one of revolutionary Massachusetts' preeminent physicians and political leaders. Just a little plug. You can find the book on Amazon.com. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Foreman to Tufts.
On this solemn occasion, I must beg your indulgence to hear from a replacement speaker for the one originally planned, Bill McDermott. Bill, as some of you know, was a Tufts BA and MA, class of 1953, MD 1958. Distinguished graduate, military veteran, and university alumni leader, Bill has been my mentor for 4 decades. I too am a veteran, but only for a few Cold War years in the Navy. I'm married to Ulika Foreman, Tufts 2005 PhD, and have 3 children below age 6, presently enrolled in Tufts Educational Daycare Center. Having experienced Tufts University education and community up close and personally, I have become a big booster of it. Those attributes teed me up to be on the podium today. I have given some thought to the relationship in the world's mightiest and most enduring republic, between its military and the rest of society. My biography of American founder and Massachusetts native son, Dr. Joseph Warren, hones in on the precedents for individual leadership and responsibility established during our Revolutionary era. Warren, commemorated at the Bunker Hill Monument as the fighting hero of that battle, and sometimes remembered as the provincial Congress leader who ordered Paul Revere on that iconic midnight ride, was essentially a person of peace, compelled by the times and personal principle to define and defend American liberty during its most embryonic period. I won't say any more about Major General Joseph Warren. who was a 1959 graduate of that crimson-hued institution down the road, except that he would have fit right in here at Tufts University had it been in existence during his college days. As an undergraduate, Warren was a member of Harvard's Marty Mercurial Military Light Infantry Club, an antecedent of ROTC training. My plan for this morning has been to share as many of Bill McDermott's words and thoughts as possible, because his military service has been distinguished. His Tufts linkages are ironclad, and he brings a life perspective worth hearing. Just last week, I visited Bill, who's lately not as mobile as he'd like to be, to obtain the words he had planned to share with you today in person. So instead of hearing any more from a Tufts wannabe, picture a taller, more distinguished, more gentlemanly, more experienced, older, wiser, and genuine Tufts graduate, with a twinkle in his eyes and heartfelt perspective of past, present, and future. Listen to his words. President Monaco, Dean Glazer, fellow veterans, ROTC cadets, ladies and gentlemen, I am very humble as I stand with you today. Like most of us, I am very grateful for the opportunity that Tufts gave me to develop a profession, to serve our country in a manner reflective of my training, and to continue in the support of the university, which each day grows in strength in its support of the world we live in. When I arrived at Tufts 65 years ago, I was fortunate to be joining the ranks of the heroes who had fought in World War II and were coming back to the school, which so many had left to fight a terrible war, or were starting the education, which had been so drastically interrupted. As a matter of memory, my first roommate, Bill Pearson, class of '51, incidentally, the chemistry building, Pearson Hall, is named for his grandfather, had been a Marine fighter pilot. Pearson, while flying his Corsair, had been shot down near Midway, floated in his life raft for 2 days, and was finally rescued. He had a large scar on his leg, which he never mentioned and about which I never asked. But he was just one of my classmates with similar stories. Just very quickly, I had an instructor in one of my biology courses, Bob Edwards, PhD on the faculty, who had been a navigator in the lead plane attacking the oil fields of Plosti in Nazi-occupied Romania. His plane made it back, but so many others did not. He got his PhD from Harvard and went on to become the director of fisheries laboratory in Woods Hole for 30 years, and then undersecretary of the Interior before he returned to live permanently in Woods Hill, Massachusetts. We remained close friends. To mention one more classmate, Bob Melanson, class of 1951, doctor of dental medicine, 1955, had been a hospital corpsman on a fleet submarine, depth charged by Japanese destroyer. They escaped. He made it back, went to dental school, and was my dentist for 35 years. At the risk of verbosity, let me ask you a question. What do you expect to learn from Tufts as you begin your military career? As military officers, I hope that your answer to yourself will not be how to fight or all about war. My answer to you would be nonsense. I will further opine that you didn't come here to learn how to fight Although I will candidly admit that infantry training courses I took at Camp Pendleton probably saved my life. You are very fortunate to be enrolled in a university absolutely committed to a world view. With luck, the combat of yesterday must remain there in yesterday. The average citizen has no understanding what a battlefield will entail. We don't need another Iwo Jima, Tarawa, or Okinawa. Let me emphasize again, you didn't come here to learn to fight. What you will take with you will be the preparation to learn to think, to understand the changing world. Learn about our different religions, the implication of racial differences and social classes, the flux of political tension, our vastly different economies, the production and distribution of food, the geopolitics of food distribution. Most of you never thought about it, but during World War II, thousands of people starved to death. Even in our world today, an additional 20,000 people daily, reflective of population growth, have to be fed each and every day. This will continue. You must look at and understand the competition for decreasing resources, those required for manufacturing, transportation, light and heat, all of which are needed for the world's economy. The demand will grow and grow and grow. Your understanding will be critical in assessing the impact of these competitive needs on the nation's leadership. Conflicts must be resolved without fighting, if at all possible. Again, we should be grateful that Tufts has such a strong commitment to public service, because you can be certain it will be emphasized and offered in your education. Now, just for a few minutes, let's talk about war as seen by a physician. Perhaps my thoughts and experiences are a little different than most, but let's try by way of a few stories. For me, the Vietnam War started at the National Naval Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Early each morning, our teams would go to the operating suites and debride the wounds of the Marines who had been flown in the night before from the war zone. There were so many lower leg injuries from the terrible booby traps in the combat area that for a while we thought that we would be a nation of one-legged men. It was sobering. But then the powers that were decided that my presence was needed in the Nam, as we so called it, and without argument I went, stopping for 2 weeks of infantry training at Camp Pendleton. I commanded the medical battalion attached to the 3rd Marine Division. We were right on the demilitarized zone with 2 hospitals, one in the village of Dang Ho and another in the village of Quang Tri. Our staff consisted of 25 physicians, 300 hospital corpsmen, and a platoon of Marines to protect our perimeter. We had the responsibility to provide care to our wounded, Marine patrols, and medical support to a multitude of functions, including an air base of the division. I wish I could take you inside my triage tent. It was critical to our operation. As the helicopters arrived, the wounded men were carried in and stripped of uniforms and boots. I once wrote a talk entitled 3 Barrels of Boots, a Night's Work. Then the evaluation would begin. Intravenous lines, of course, vasopressor if needed, blood sometimes, assessment of the wounds, treatment plans, sometimes tough decisions, but that's another subject. We knew that if we won the first critical hour, that we could win the battle to save a life. I can honestly say if you made it to our triage area and began treatment there was a 96% chance you would get to go home. You might be minus an arm, a foot, or a leg, but you were going to live. I had extremely well-trained doctors and corpsmen. We worked hard. Parenthetically, we worked terrible hours. I can remember many instances of being in the operating room for 16 to 18 hours straight, but no one ever complained. Because I was the CO, I rated the privilege of a single hooch, or hut. And let me add, the Viet Cong knew where I lived, and on numerous occasions tried to kill me. Why? They hated me. Our humanitarian services were interfering with their plan to drive us out. Our hospital in Quang Tri was near a town in which there was an orphanage. As an American would do, we tried to help them as much as possible. As our rations were reasonably plentiful, anything we had left over we put in a truck and brought to the orphans. Because of the variety of factors, food was very scarce to them. I remember the visit of the headman of the villa coming to me to ask if we could please not put our cigarettes on our plates. The scrapping with our garbage is what they lived on. We did everything we could to make their lives easier. We took the sick into our hospital, helped deliver their babies, treated the ARVN, South Vietnamese wounded, even treated the Viet Cong wounded. But we'd be dismayed when we discharged the Viet Cong to the ARVN troops, which we were forced to do by treaty. We would hear the rifle shot in the distance as they were killed. All of the American medical and humanitarian help was terribly resented by the Viet Cong because it interfered with their quest to force Americans out. And I was the one they blamed the most. Hand grenades under my Jeep, mortar rounds at night aimed at my hooch. Each day, I tried to run around our compound at least a few times for exercise, until one day a rifle bullet fired from off the compound struck a board a few inches from me as I ran by. Fortunately, the rifleman was a bad shot. And then there was the crowning and most baroque of the Viet Cong's dirty tricks. A creature of habit, I always hung my rain jacket on a nail by the door of my hut. It was a rainy day. I took my jacket down, was just about to put my arm in the right sleeve, and there hanging in the armhole was a deadly poisonous snake. Would it have bitten me? Yes. A ginger step out the door, my .45 pistol ended the threat. The world that you will be entering will be entirely different. You will learn the term asymmetric warfare. The weapon systems you will encounter are only beginning to be used and developed. Drones, robots, packbots, which are robots, I believe, for search missions, unmanned aircraft that will use an aircraft carrier for a base, ships that can fire around for 75 miles, and so forth. Then there is the weapon of your generation, cyber warfare. An officers' community must be developed to revolutionize modern warfare and update warfighting lines of operation. As you learn from your newspapers, for those of us who still prefer the analog world, and for the younger folks on their iPhones and iPads, we have already experienced internet hacking attacks. Demand for related skills is already increasing. Business is already recruiting from colleges people with these kinds of skills. It is already being predicted that the next war may be started with a cyber attack from orbital space. Perhaps this is the arena ready-made for your military careers. We can talk for an hour about weapon systems under development, but it's still war. People will die. I don't think Americans, except a few, realize the death toll of battle. A few of us remember the reticence of the British to go to war against Nazi Germany. But the British could still remember the terrible death toll of World War I. Imagine, during the Battle of the Somme, 21,000 young British soldiers killed in 1 hour, and that was only the beginning. No wonder the British didn't want to rush into war again. The death toll of World War II proved as frightening and as fearsome in its own way. Just think, 130,000 British and American young men were killed in the air war over Germany. Some of you will probably visit the war cemetery in Omaha Beach. War is not glamorous, and all too often the critical decisions are left in the control of leaders who know nothing about it. But enough of stories. I will leave you with 2 points I think are critical to the careers you may be choosing for yourselves. The first is what I call a choice of opportunity. In no other profession or calling will you be offered the multitude of choices which you will have during a military career. You will be given the opportunity for education, travel, career flexibility, to meet and experience different people, visit their countries, see parts of the world and cultures which many people don't know exist. I could spend a day describing the many things I've seen and done, including escort, the King of Norway, learning to exit a fighter plane in an emergency, being made an honorary Ashanti warrior, and these are only the beginning. What I am saying is, seek out the experiences and opportunities. Don't turn them down when offered. They are there, take them. They will make your career even more exciting and impactful. Secondly, message which I hope will take with you and which will influence your military career and perhaps others as well. Over the next several years, almost everywhere you turn, somebody will preach leadership. But what does it really mean? What does it entail as you work and, yes, lead? Remember that leadership is not marching at the head of your unit to the beat of a drum. Leadership is you assuming the responsibility for those you are leading. Their problems are yours. Their concerns are yours. Their fears are yours. Their family concerns are yours. You are their servant. Take care of your people. If you do so, they will take care of you. I leave you with my final mandate from the last verse of our national anthem. It says it very clearly. We are the land of the free and the home of the brave. As we said so often in the Navy, make it so. Thank you.
So this concludes our ceremony. We'd like to thank everyone who's spoken today. We have Ms. Bartlett standing in for the chaplaincy, President Monaco, Dean Glazer, and of course, Dr. Foreman, excuse me. All of whom have shared words with us and brought some insight into Veterans Day and who we are remembering and what we have to look forward to. There's a light lunch in the back, so we hope that you'll join us for that, and thank you for coming.
I'd just like to take a quick moment to recognize just a few people. First of all, the group Allies. If you could stand, if you're part of the Allies group. They are they work to create a relationship between the civilian and military future leaders, and they have gone out of their way to be a great help to the Tufts ROTC group. And I would also, the advocates for Tufts ROTC, you guys deserve a big round of applause. Without you all, none of this is possible, and it means so much to me personally as a future Army officer to have this relationship and your concern and care and your outreach as the link, the previous leaders of this country, and I hope that your trust is well founded. So thank you again. It means so much to have this sort of ceremony because of you all. So as Hans said, lunch is in the back. Mingle.